And a good Wednesday morning to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here on 13 WMAZ Plus for a look at your extended forecast. Now on the backstretch, the home stretch of this very messy weather stretch that we have been under. So we're going to go over the forecast for today, the rest of the work week, and then hopefully I can bring you some good news as we bring in the weekend and the month of June. But first things first, let's talk about some rainfall totals. It has been a period of about 4 or 5 days now that we've gotten some rain here in Central Georgia. Let's take a look at some of the totals from north to south. Up here around Lake Oconee and this area right on the edge of Putnam County into Greene County, just close to 3 inches. This one spot that I did grab in northern Hancock County, close to 6 inches of rain over the course of the last 5 days. Similar amounts over here in Zebulon over in Pike County. Everyone else up here in Central Georgia, northern Central Georgia to be specific, finding themselves somewhere between the 1 and 2 inch marks. You can see Milledgeville with just over an inch, Gray with close to 2 inches, close to 2 inches here in Macon. And then once you take it over to Forsyth and Thomaston, just over that 2 inch mark, 1.5 inches in Monticello and Eatonton. And then we're closer to an inch down in Irwinton and over into Sandersville in Washington County. Taking it to the central portion of our area, we'll take a look at Warner Robins, about 1.5 inches, and then you take it down into the central portion of the county, about an inch more in areas like Perry, close to 3 inches in Roberta, just over 3 inches in Butler, right on the edge of Macon County and Taylor County. Once again, another total close to 6 inches, close to 4 inches in Fort Valley, 1.2 in Dublin, 1.2 over in Wrightsville, and then 2 inches of rain down in Cochran. We'll take a zoomed in picture, see how much rain we've recorded at Middle Georgia Regional Airport, and that would be about an inch of rain over the last 5 days. So we'll continue to add that to our total that we've seen so far in the year of 2025 and the month of May. The month of May has been a rather wet one. Let's take it down to our southernmost counties, and you can see that they finally got their fair share of some rain yesterday with that line of showers and storms that rolled through. Anyone falling from about the 1 inch to 2, maybe close to 4 inches in areas like Eastman, and then right here on the county line of Wheeler and Montgomery counties. Once again, close to 6 inches just east of Alamo and west of Mount Vernon. So yes, we're definitely looking at a pretty good amount of rain over a 5-day stretch. That definitely will do a number for keeping our total above average where it should be this time of year, but also seeing those locally heavy amounts that we typically see when we have thunderstorms roll through. Any areas that get a strong or a severe storm, those rainfall rates are very heavy, so that's going to continue to produce higher totals like what you see right here in between Mount Vernon and Alamo, 5.7 inches of rain. In some areas just around them, neighboring, only about less than 2 inches in areas like Alamo, 1 inch in McRae, and 2 inches up in Soperton in Treutlen County. So your headlines for your forecast: the storm chances continue. I know I'm sounding like a broken record. I'm tired of them. You're tired of them, but I promise there is some relief in sight. We just got to push through these last 3 days of the marathon. Finally clearing up Friday night. So as soon as Friday night, we are going to welcome in some pleasant weather for the weekend. And also, temperatures are going to drop down a touch, not very substantially, but it also will be paired up with some lower humidity. So that's going to make those temperatures feel a lot better than that sticky humidity that was around in the forecast for yesterday. Here's a live look at the Georgia National Fairgrounds. Cloudy skies are still continuing to dominate our forecast, so that could keep our high temperature somewhere in the 80s, maybe low to mid 80s. Not going to be a complaint whatsoever, and it will be paired up with slightly less humidity throughout today, it does look like. We're still seeing that wedge in place up to the north and the northeast. That's where you still find temperatures in the 60s up in counties like Jasper, Putnam, up into Hancock, Baldwin, just a little bit seeping down into areas like Jones County, Wilkinson County, and Washington County and Johnson County. But the rest of Central Georgia is still warming up despite the cloud cover, mid to upper 70s already down in our southernmost counties. So kind of a dividing line and another good gradient of colors that we see on this temperature map. Green to the north, mixing in some yellow the farther south that you travel, and then a little bit of orange down to the south and the southwest. So the dew point temperatures, that's where you're going to find the more humid air as well, down to the south and the southwest throughout today. This could be a theme with our forecast. We'll take a look at the newest run of Future View here in just 1 second, but it is slightly drier up to the north and the northeast. We're not seeing those winds coming in from the northeast anymore, however, so the wedge is expected to finally break apart as we go throughout today. So those areas up to the north and the northeast that have gotten a little bit of relief in terms of not as intense weather like we did have in our southernmost counties yesterday. along with some of that cooler and drier air, that is only going to be short-lived. It looks like that is going to be coming to an end pretty soon. It feels like temperatures pretty accurate of their actual values up here, and then maybe even feeling a little bit warmer in some areas down to the south and the southwest, already feeling like 84 degrees down in Unadilla. Winds and wind gusts, they are calm right now. We'll have a steady breeze from the west, about 5 to 15 miles per hour throughout today. But if you do catch yourself in a storm just like yesterday, those local winds and those wind gusts are going to be a little bit greater than what the rest of central Georgia does have, but that's going to be confined to a pretty small area just where that storm is present over. Here's a look at your satellite and radar picture. We still see plenty of cloud cover from the west to the south to the east. Some breaks in it up to the north. However, I'm not too sure how accurate that is because this has been struggling with our cloud cover all morning long. But it does look like we finally get some spots of clearing over to the west of us that will be approaching. Not too much cloud cover back over into Alabama, so the more sunshine that we get, the warmer our temperatures will get. If the cloud cover wants to hang around, not going to reach those high temperatures that I did have forecasted for today. It's been kind of difficult to forecast that high temperature as of recently, but the main focus has been the rain and the storm chances. So temperatures below 90 degrees, that's basically all you need to know. It could feel a bit humid outside, and we're going to remain with that humid and that warm air mass that will stay in place for the foreseeable future. So let's talk about what's going on surface feature wise. Why do we continue to have all of this active weather? Well, it's just been because of the stationary boundary. It's parked itself. It has kind of just been sitting here. We've looked at a low pressure center that has finally established itself, and it's going to move up to the north and the northeast. Initially, we were looking at this portion of the stationary boundary to be kind of a cold front and kick into gear eventually. It looks like that cold front is going to be more associated with this low pressure center off into Texas as of right now, but it's kind of been the bank of the river, and everything down to the south of it has been the water flowing downstream. So we continue to get these lines and lines of showers and storms from the west, and they progress across all the Gulf Coast states, including Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, before they finally get into our neck of the woods. But this stationary boundary is going to kind of act as an axis of rain throughout today because it does have a good amount of lift associated with it. And you can see that it's attached itself to another low pressure center up here. That's not going to really have any implications to our forecast. It may help drag this stationary boundary out of the picture for just a little bit, but we still have our rain chances that are going to remain in the forecast. More so for Thursday and Friday. Today actually could be a little bit of a brief break from the active weather stretch. So we climbed to 82 yesterday. I originally forecasted upper 80s, saw that cloud cover wasn't breaking apart, so I bumped the high temperature down to about 81. So we were pretty close to what I did have forecasted second go round, but still falling shy of that average high of 88 degrees for this time of year, and our morning low temperature 65 degrees yesterday. That's 1 degree above average of what our average low is this time of year, somewhere around 64 degrees. Taking a look at your records, back in 1953, we hit the 99 degree mark. Pretty soon we're going to be having some triple digits in this record box. In 45 degrees, very thankful that we didn't have that much of a chill in the air in the morning hours. We ran probably about exactly 20 degrees above what that record low was set back in 1961. So in light of yesterday's showers and storms, Middle Georgia Regional Airport got 3/4 of an inch of rain, and that is a pretty substantial number because it now puts us above an inch above where we should be this time of year. That's a good cushion to go into a pretty dry spell with. Maybe if we could get that about 2 inches above where we should be this time of year, we could go probably a stretch of about a week and a half, and really not put too substantial of a dent in that number. Sunrise yesterday was at 6:29, sunset was at 8:35. Haven't been really getting a good glimpse of those sunrises and sunsets from all the cloud cover that still remains in the forecast. So maybe eventually as we head into the weekend, we will finally get a good view of some of those sunrises and sunsets because we know they are quite spectacular this time of year. But now we've added 2 more days in a row that we have seen rainfall at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. This puts our total at 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days that we've recorded rain out of the month of May. And obviously a lot of these amounts aren't too substantial whatsoever. It was really these 2 days, the 10th and 11th, that we recorded more than an inch of rain. And we have a couple days that fell just shy of the inch mark. But nonetheless, we find ourselves in the very wet category and probably going to stay there for quite some time, even into the month of June. So total so far in the month of May, we've received nearly 6 inches of rain here. which doesn't seem like that much, but take a look at your average May rainfall. Just over 2.5 inches of rain all time, with all the records that we do have dating back to the late 1800s for the month of May. So we find ourselves already about 3 inches above where we should be average compared to all time, and about halfway to the record back in 1957. Definitely don't think that we hit this record whatsoever. We would need a severe thunderstorm to kind of stay put and have pretty slow motion over Middle Georgia Regional Airport in order for that to happen. Not sure if that's going to quite be in the cards, but hey, anything's possible. The stretch that we've been on, I didn't think we'd see a stretch like this that would last for about a week's time of us having a severe weather risk each and every day. So let's take a look at your forecast for today. Some sunshine looks to be in order this afternoon. That's what I'm banking on if we're going to reach our high temperature that I forecasted. 88 degrees, right on par for this time of year. Average high temperature 88 that you see in the top right corner. But you still see this pesky thunderstorm icon. That remains a possibility throughout today. However, the secondary headline that I put on the graphic, scattered rain. That's going to be a big emphasis on the scattered. Most areas are more than likely going to remain dry throughout today. Though any rain that you do see, it could intensify into a strong, maybe even a severe thunderstorm. We're still in an outlook for today. However, it's going to be more reminiscent of what our typical summertime forecast is going to be, where we get those pop-up showers that may intensify into a storm or two. However, most areas go the entire day without seeing anything in the way of rain. So very scattered in nature, not organized like what we've seen as of the past 3 days, especially last evening. A steady breeze out of the west, 5 to 15 miles per hour, and that sunrise this morning was once again at 6:29, but didn't get a very good glimpse of it whatsoever. So let's talk about your heat index. As long as that humidity is still somewhere into the mid to upper 60s, it's going to play a role on our temperatures, as they do kind of frequently get into the 80s and eventually 90s probably, I do imagine, as we go into next weekend. So our heat index indicating that, number one, we probably won't get too warm on the high temperature side of things. As you can see, the heat index tops out at somewhere around 88 degrees. That's the feels like number, the heat index. So that would match what the high temperature is, and I think we still have sufficient humidity to where we'd probably be feeling a degree, 2 or 3 warmer than that. So it does look like maybe we could top out in the mid 80s, pretty close to the upper 80s in my opinion. However, upper 80s, that's where you start to more so feel like 90 degrees. And that does give you a good indication of the humidity being a little bit lower today as opposed to what we did feel yesterday. We'll have those patchy areas of some humid air, and that's going to correlate to better rain chances. So let's take a look at what the newest run of FutureView does say. I'm looking at this in real time, just like you are. So 3 p.m. we see rain popping up to the south of us. Like I said, more circular dots that are going to be very localized in nature and in shape. And we could go the entire day without seeing rain whatsoever. FutureView has remained of the idea that we're really not going to see much rain whatsoever. I think the best chance of seeing any rain in the way of showers, strong thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms is going to be in our farther southern counties. It does look like the wedge is still remaining in place. That should break apart as we go throughout today. However, FutureView doesn't really show anything in the way of rain that would correlate to the severe weather risk that we do see. So hopefully we can get at least a brief break from the active weather stretch. We can get some peaks of sunshine. However, if we do get peaks of sunshine, that allows the temperatures to get a little bit warmer. But with the lower humidity today, I think it's not going to be as conducive as recent days for promoting some widespread weather in nature. We should start out tomorrow nice and dry around 7 a.m. We could see some rain try to approach in the morning hours. However, it does more so look like the afternoon hours that we're going to see lots and lots of scattered showers, scattered storms in nature, and that just continues to kind of cluster together, have more widespread impacts as we go throughout the afternoon into the evening hours. This is looking like a very messy picture according to FutureView. No real organization to this. However, this is semi-organized. There is a driving force behind all of this rain, which would be in the way of a short wave. So that's going to be more of an upper level front as opposed to a surface level front. And we'll talk about a surface level front here as we go into Friday. But go ahead and plan on Thursday afternoon into the evening being quite a messy one. And we are in a severe weather outlook for tomorrow as it does stand as well. Then we can see plenty of dark reds and even some oranges, some yellows, indicating some steadier and some heavier rainfall rates amongst these thunderstorms. And that does continue to move out as we go into the evening hours. And I guess I just flash forwarded through basically everything on there. but still hanging around for about 7 to 8 p.m. Any dinner plans that you do have tomorrow, I would advise ordering in or maybe cooking inside your kitchen because it's just going to be a messy picture outside. Then we go all the way to your Friday morning. We could even still have some scattered rain try to hang around for the overnight hours. It's been trying to do that as of recently. We had that line pass through yesterday evening, and it did get out of here fairly quickly, but by the time I was back into work, there was another line of rain approaching west from Alabama. Thankfully, it came during the overnight hours when we were a little bit cooler. We were a little bit less humid, so that line was pretty quick to dissolve. I think the last of the rain that we did see were in these 3 counties up here, Jasper, Putnam, and Jones counties, maybe a little bit in Monroe County this morning. But this is Friday morning, hopefully starting out relatively dry. And then we still see these kind of residual and scattered sprinkles, but take a look at what's happening to your north and your northwest. So number one, the biggest takeaway when I saw this model run when I came into work was, oh, okay, the rain's finally coming in from a different direction. But that cold front I've been talking about that's going to drape down from the southern end of one of these centers of low pressure will finally push through central Georgia. And the other takeaway that you can see as of this, number one, it's really kind of a thin line of cloud cover and some pockets of heavy rain. Wouldn't even rule out a couple of storms with this because we know ahead of these cold fronts, that's where you're going to get your lift ahead of it. Now this is going to be a surface cold front, just like I was talking about earlier, not necessarily a mid-level or an upper level front like what's driving our weather for tomorrow, but there is going to be plenty of lift ahead of it, excuse me, and then this is actually going to act as a mechanism for driving in some slightly cooler and some slightly drier air, which will really do a number in terms of getting these rain chances and storm chances finally out of the picture. So this is 3 p.m. It could be moving into our north and our northwesternmost counties, coming with its fair share of gusty winds. You see those wind arrows. They're a lot longer and a lot yellower in color. We'll take a look at the wind gust map here in just 1 second. So I would say about 2 to 3 o'clock making its entrance here into central Georgia, just past lunchtime, probably here in the Macon area, getting close to Warner Robins by about 4 p.m. We go all the way to 5 p.m., continuing its progress down to the south and the southeast, going out to areas like Dublin, our far southeastern counties by about 6 p.m. And you can see it tries to organize, and there is a lot more linear shape and widespread impacts with this line as it pushes further into central Georgia, because that's going to be the prime time of when our temperatures are going to be the warmest. We'll look at a little bit of a rebound in humidity, but the good news is by about 7 p.m. on Friday, most of this rain should be out of the picture, and then we say goodbye to the rain chances for a good stretch of a couple of days. We should dry out for the rest of your Friday night, so any Friday night plans you have with friends, family, I know it's the first weekend of summer break, well, I guess technically second weekend of summer break. Most of you got out of school as of last Wednesday or Thursday, had the graduations last weekend. Wasn't the best forecast, but it did end up shaping up pretty nice for the afternoon hours. I was telling you that make sure that you have plans indoors, or you can move your plans indoors whenever it does look a little bit messy outside. Well, thankfully, we're not going to have a story of that whatsoever this weekend. This takes us all the way to early Saturday morning, more so overnight into early Saturday morning. We are trending mostly dry here in the state of Georgia. No cloud cover besides what's to the north of us. That's mainly north of I-85, and any precipitation associated with that does look fairly weak in nature. So let's talk about our storm outlooks. Day 1 storm outlook. This is going to go for today. You will see almost all of central Georgia is included in this. We did receive an update probably sometime around 8:30 this morning. And the only difference is it's kind of gone down to the south a little bit. We see the northern portions of Jasper and Putnam counties taken out of this. But once again, what we are continuing to see is the more humid air and the warmer temperatures are going to be in our southernmost counties. We're seeing areas farther to the north of maybe our those bottom 2 rows of counties kind of having some cooler temperatures and not as much humidity in the forecast. So that's where you're going to have your rain chances, where it is still feeling a little bit sticky outside, where your temperatures do get warmer. And this, once again, this day 1 outlook, this level 1 risk really just kind of covering the bases for seeing maybe a strong thunderstorm that's a little bit loud. It has its fair share of gusty winds. But also the more important note, at least in my opinion, because it's been a pretty interesting stretch of weather, 5th day in a row that central Georgia finds themselves in some sort of severe weather risk, and it does not stop there. How about your day 2 storm outlook? This goes for tomorrow. This is indicating that almost all of central Georgia is under a level 1 out of 5 risk. So once again, our northern counties and areas to the northeast of us, not in a severe weather outlook, just means confidence is a lot lower in anything popping up of the way of severe weather. But if we go the way of what Future View was saying, it does look like it could have widespread impacts for all of us here in central Georgia, really the entire state of Georgia. It looks to be a lot more widespread for your Thursday, but still, Thursday marks the 6th day in a row that we have found ourselves in a severe weather outlook. Just covering the main potential threats, gusty winds and some small hail that can be present with some strong or severe thunderstorms. And we know after yesterday, we don't even need a storm to have the severe criteria. We only got one severe thunderstorm warning yesterday. We had some all around us up to the northwest of us, even some tornado warnings, but only one lone severe thunderstorm warning here in central Georgia. That was down in Bleckley, Dodge, and Lawrence counties. Still, we had plenty of special weather statements that had their fair share of gusty winds, their fair share of probably some small hail signatures. We got numerous reports of some power outages, got some numerous reports of some trees down. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a severe thunderstorm in order to cause some damage or have any impacts, hence why we went with the weather impact alert for yesterday. So if we are to see an uptick in confidence in any of these outlooks, then of course we would look at the criteria and see if it's going to have widespread impacts. If it's just going to be secluded to a couple of counties, then obviously probably not going to be impacting everyone. But we want to make sure that you still have the chance for seeing a stronger severe storm today, tomorrow, and it continues for Friday, which would mark the 7th day in a row with a severe weather outlook. I know this pattern is getting very, very old, still covering the bases with some gusty winds and some small hail that can pack a punch with a stronger severe thunderstorm. This is for Friday, but you will notice a level 2 up to the north and the northeast of us. This is going to be where more confidence is of seeing severe weather. East central Georgia, East Georgia, we could see this level 2 kind of stretch down into our neck of the woods over the course of the next 2 days until this outlook is actually on the day 1 outlook, the day of. But this is all going to be courtesy of that front driving through. And you can see that areas up to the north and the northwest of us, not in an outlook whatsoever, because that front would be passing during a cooler portion of the day, during the morning hours, as opposed to here in central Georgia when we look to receive it sometime in the late afternoon into the evening hours. But it will clear out fairly quickly, probably around 8 p.m., 9 p.m. on Friday night. We are going to finally clear out, and that front is going to usher in some slightly cooler and slightly drier air. So let's talk about the winds. I did mention we were going to talk about that once again for today and tomorrow. You're just going to see your gusty winds in those localized spots where those thunderstorms are actually going over. And this goes along with the graph model, the Future View model I did just show you. So maybe some gusts up to 30 miles per hour throughout your Thursday. Don't think I see anything quite higher than that. But then we go into Friday, and then that's when the winds start building in, even ahead of the actual passage of the frontal boundary. Even some steady winds and wind gusts up to 20, 25 miles per hour. We could even see some gustier winds within that pocket of rain, that pocket of heavy rainfall on the leading edge of that frontal boundary. But then the winds aren't too bad on the backside. They start to go down a little bit in speed, and that'll take us all the way into Saturday. So hopefully we can get the winds out of the picture by then. Something I do want to note, I can show you on this graphic, but we really get a good depiction of it as we go into the actual Future View dew points map. But we'll talk about it on the Muggy meter first. Humidity day by day, still going to hover in this borderline area between dew points in the 60s and dew points in the 70s. Still, some areas are going to feel very muggy. Some areas are just going to have a bit of a noticeable humidity. But then Friday, we start to see it tick down a little bit. Then after the passage of that front, we drop those dew point temperatures down into the 50s. That's a lot more of a comfortable air, and especially paired up with some nice sunny skies, it will be very nice and a welcome change, I'm sure, for many. Saturday, Sunday, on into Monday and Tuesday. So we're going to have some drier air present, and that's kind of why I've gone ahead and just taken the rain chances off for your second half of your 7-day forecast. But let's go over to the Future View humidity map. You can really get a good picture of what these colors are doing. Just fluctuating throughout today. So once again, some areas are going to feel a little bit more humid than other areas. Going into your Thursday, we really see that dark green color build in pretty big. And then as those clusters of showers and thunderstorms start to roll through in the afternoon hours, we see those pockets utilizing most of that dark green color. Then we go into your Friday morning, where there's plenty of humid air, noticeable humidity or very, very muggy air. but then that front sweeps through, and here comes that area of no color whatsoever, trying to make its presence known by the time we go overnight into early Saturday morning. So I would say the farther north that you live, typical of these fronts this time of year, you are going to notice the drier air a little bit quicker, I guess I would say, as opposed to areas farther down to the south. But I think everyone in central Georgia will finally get a feel of the somewhat drier air that is going to be in the picture. All right, now let's go to the long-range models. Let's talk about the good part of your forecast. We pick it up with the GFS and the Euro here on long range. There we go. I've already started it sometime Friday night. These models typically lag a little bit behind what's actually happening, so this doesn't mean that we're still going to have rain here in central Georgia. I think that front will push through, and it will finally clear things out by about 8 p.m. on Friday, but it continues to push through by about the midnight hour on Saturday. And then as we go into your Saturday afternoon, we could be dealing with clear sunny skies for a change. Like I said, a very welcome change. There is rain to the north of us. Will that push into central Georgia? Let's go all the way to your Sunday. And it tries to. It gets to the northern portion of the state. And the National Weather Service has outlined the potential for some showers and some storms in North Georgia as we go into Sunday evening. But it does look like as it tries to push into central Georgia, it kind of stops and it really does fall apart. So I do think Sunday still going to be mostly dry as we go into the beginning of the work week. Still some rain chances around us, maybe down to our south and our southeast. This is very likely to change, though. I do believe Monday is also going to be a dry day. Tuesday will continue with that trend, and then we go into Wednesday next week where it still looks relatively dry. Maybe some more cloud cover in the picture by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but overall not seeing any organized weather systems or anything that's going to sit over our area for an extended period of time like this stationary boundary we have present right now. It does look like we are finally going to hit a very welcome dry stretch as we head into Saturday, Sunday, all the way into the beginning of next week. So here's where your 7-day forecast does stand. Today might be the warmest of the next couple of days if we get that break in cloud cover. If we don't, temperatures are going to hover a little bit lower. Don't think that's a complaint by anyone whatsoever, but a 40% chance of a shower or a storm. I think it's mainly to the south, but we have most of central Georgia outlined in a level 1 risk. So don't be surprised if you live farther up to the north, you live up here in Macon, you live in Milledgeville, you live over in Irwinton. You could very well see some pop-up showers, maybe even a storm or two. However, the chances are looking a lot less likely for today as opposed to yesterday, and it's more likely than not you're going to remain dry all throughout today. You may deal with some sunny skies, and it's going to be beautiful feeling weather because of the scattered nature of today's rain. Now, Thursday and Friday, it's a little more widespread. Definitely Thursday. All the model runs we've continued to see are definitely hinting at some widespread precipitation, whether it's a shower or whether it's a storm. I've gone with a 70% chance right now. We very likely might bump that up if the models continue to say or have the same idea as we go into tomorrow afternoon and the evening. Friday, a little bit less of a chance. It's all going to depend on how quickly the rain ahead of that front does organize. So the farther north and northwest that you live, probably less of a chance of rain as opposed to areas down to the south and the southeast because the front will be coming through during the warmest portion of the day in those areas down to the south and the southeast. So it looks to have more organization and more widespread impacts as it utilizes all of our daytime heat that we have. Front will pass through. We will clear out for Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, all the way into the first day of June. Hard to believe we're about to the halfway mark of 2025 already. But after a very pleasant Saturday and a very pleasant Sunday, we do see the temperatures increase. Thankfully, the humidity does look to stay at some pretty reasonable levels. I think we'll probably rebound back up with dew point temperatures into the 60s by the time we get into the beginning of next week. So probably feeling just above the 90-degree mark, but I think many of you are like myself. You will take feels like temperatures and heat indices in the 90s as opposed to having a chance of a shower or a storm each and every day. 7 days is quite a long stretch to go with being in a severe weather outlook, but I don't imagine we'll stop there in the upper 80s. I do imagine that some 90s are going to be on the horizon very, very shortly, but by the time we get to June, I was really hoping they would stay out of here at least until May, and we had a good week stretch of some forecasted highs in the 90s. However, it does look like 90s are going to kind of become the normal as we go into the month of June. And then we'll go to July, then we'll go to August, where we know it's going to feel very, very swampy outside. So 3 more days, Central Georgia. We are almost at the end of the marathon race. There is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, and Saturday going to be an absolutely amazing day for any outdoor plans. high temperatures still about 6 to 7 degrees below average. That paired up with some lower humidity and some sunny skies cannot write up a better forecast. And you have to take those days while you do get them, because we know during the summertime stretch that the weather is ever changing more so than it is during those cooler seasons of the year. So those very nice days, make the most out of them, get your outdoor plans in, hit the golf course, have a cookout, go over to your friend's house and swim. It's going to be an absolutely amazing weekend after we get through a bit of an active and messy Friday late afternoon and early evening, but then Friday night plans, I think you're going to be good to go as well. Something else, as we continue through this tail end of the stretch of messy weather that you can utilize, we have a lot of tools, and all of you that come here on 13 WMAZ Plus to watch this extended forecast, thank you for myself, number one. However, if I'm not on here giving you the latest update on the forecast, something that you can use is our new live Doppler radar stream. So we have a bunch of different scene selections where you can take a look at what's happening live on the radar anytime you want. So you could exit out of this right now. You could go click the Doppler radar stream that is 24/7 that you do see up there in the top left of your screen. And I obviously screenshotted this at about 10:06 this morning to put on the graphic. It has current temperature observations for individual cities. So Milledgeville is here in the bottom left of the screen, tells you the visibility. And then as we go throughout the afternoon, what the temperatures will be, what icon is going to be associated with that, where your location is. So us up here in Macon, we were at 64 degrees. I do believe this might have been a little bit off right there. We're still doing some tinkering with it. However, 64 degrees for certain locations, it will give you that temperature reading, and you'll be able to kind of get a localized forecast on demand. You know, the Weather Channel has that local on the 8s that they like to play. Well, this is kind of your tool to utilize that for your forecast. So anytime that we're not on air, you're wanting to know what's going on with the radar, what's going on with the models, what level of risk that we're in. We have a loop of all that playing 24/7. So we have satellite and radar. And if things do start to get a little bit messy this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, Friday afternoon, number one, when we do have warnings, of course, we'll come on with coverage, or we will tell you about them if we're in the show, just like Ansley Parker was doing yesterday. But if you can't seem to find us, then you can utilize this tool. This Doppler radar is a great tool in order to utilize to just really forecast for yourself, see what's going on in real time. You can just take a quick look at the radar. Hey, there's no rain coming my way. Most of the rain looks to be to the south throughout today. Okay, I'm good to go for any outdoor plans that I have this evening into tonight. Continue to utilize this, and we'll continue to tweak it, add some changes. We'll take some opinions about what graphics that you guys would like to see, and we'll add them into this live stream that you can access 24/7. But right now, I do believe we have a montage of your satellite and radar pictures. So all of central Georgia, we have some zoomed in views of the northern half, the southern half, what's happening in North Georgia. Specifically right now, we've taken some camera scenes, what's happening in states to the west, since that's the direction that all these systems seem to be coming in from. And then we have our model run. So you can take a look at Future View. You can take a look at Future View with the temperatures. You can take a look at the SPC outlooks, the day 1, 2, and 3 outlooks that we do have. And then also our temperatures and our feels like temperatures, which can kind of give you a good idea about what an approaching weather system may be running into and may be working with. If the temperatures are warmer, those feels like temperatures are even warmer. You know it's so hot, you know it's a humid atmosphere, so that's going to be prime fuel to the fire for an approaching system to continue to intensify. So definitely go ahead and head to you're already on 13 WMAZ Plus, but go ahead and back out of the stream and go check this out. It's a great tool that we've worked hard to put together for you guys. And along with that, just got to get through these next 3 days. I am looking so forward to Saturday. I would definitely encourage you to get outside, go touch some grass and get some sun. Going to be an absolutely splendid day. And hopefully we can welcome in a dry stretch and a calm stretch of weather after this very, very messy and active stretch. So thanks for tuning in here for your extended forecast. Once again, we're back here at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow live, doing a breakdown of the forecast as we continue to trim off days in a row that we have on this active and very, very messy stretch of weather. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you at 10:30 sharp tomorrow.